Thank you. So our next speaker will be Dan, and he'll be talking about the power of AI in terms of transferring knowledge and learning.
Okay, do I have my mouth? Okay. Good morning. How are you today? I hope you had a good night, and I enjoyed last night, a good dinner, and a lot of discussions. So I got many questions about artificial intelligence and where you see that plays a big role with respect to integration between extended reality and how we can apply this specifically in the area of knowledge for learning, for training, and for performing. And I have a presentation here, but I also like it to be a little bit more interactive. So I will challenge the audience to ask questions, and you're welcome to challenge me. There are no right answers here because somehow we're entering unknown territory. And it reminds me of this cartoon. Can we switch to my device? Okay. So it reminds me of this cartoon, and we see when they start walking outside, and there's nothing, the road is built as they walk. And that's basically how we develop much of artificial intelligence at the moment. Now, let's see if it works. No problem. I can always continue. So the things we are okay. So yesterday I kind of gave you a little bit of an inkling and where you see this working. So we do see this working in the area of assistance, combining extended reality with a tutor that you can communicate with and have a conversation. I'm sure most of you have conversed with Alexa. Anyone here? But Alexa does know very little things. So if you ask about things, you may ask about the second law of relativity, but it doesn't really converse well. So it's limited. The new integration of solutions that we have, a language model, can actually have a very specific discussion. The next thing that we're going to talk about is guidance. So for an avatar to guide you, it's not just verbally telling you things, but it also needs to know the world around you. And that requires not only conversational AI, but it requires also, in this case, to be able to have image recognition and video recognition. The area that I spoke shortly about yesterday was the creation aspect. So the area to dream, to sit down, kick back, and dream about something and say that something, and that thing manifests itself physically. I mean, in an image, in a video, in an animation, and also in three-dimensional models. And the two areas I didn't speak much about yesterday, but I will deep dive, is how we can have humans and AI work together in a symbiotic relation. So I will deep dive on those in my conversation now. But what makes this possible is the revolution of AI specifically this year. This year is a milestone, as I mentioned yesterday, when for the first time we see AI starting to outperform humans. Definitely outperform us when it comes to general knowledge, but also start to outperform us or close to outperforming us in common sense, right? Which is something that we also thought was will take a long time. The problem is when you start to do this AI, and I'll show you a quick video here. Let's see if I can drag that video in. There you go. Let's see if I have to grab that corner somehow in the screen. Oh, there's my mouse. Just a second. So what I'm doing here is that this is an open deep mind. It's a Google-owned company, and they have something called Sparrow. Let's see. Our internet is slow. Anyway, I'll explain, and hopefully it's going to come through. How many here have read the book about Asimov, I, Robot? Anyone here? Okay, quite a few. So if you remember that book, there was 3 rules. that we apply to robots so they don't, one of them is you should not harm humans, right? A big fear with robots is that they will take over and kill us all, and yeah, we are rendered useless. The video doesn't appear there, but I'll show you something a little bit later. So in the latest model, not only do we provide some type of realistic filter, but we also, in this case, have up to 22 rules of what an AI should do and not do. And because the video doesn't work, I'll show you that in a later stage. So this is a conversational AI. I can ask any question I want, and it's answering to me. I also wrote a book with a colleague of mine a year ago about AI, and it's entitled The AI Revolution and How We Become Superhumans. And I gave it to the ministry this morning. And it's a short version. It's 90 pages of my 400 pages because my wife thought it was too long and too boring, so she shortened it to 90 pages. But now I'm using actually AI to write my next book. So there's a lot of books written by AI. So how does it work? You say a few sentences, you give the concept, and then AI does the rest of the work. But you can also do, let's say you want to do a romantic movie, and you're not a Hollywood producer, and it should be Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks with Sandra Bullock, and you can say the concept, and then AI is creating. So this is something that was very surprising for most of us, that AI can be so creative. Another thing which we are taking advantage at EON is that if you're a programmer in C++, in Python, or whatever, C#, AI can help you to look at your code and understand what you're doing and actually do the code for you. So this already today produces 40 to 50% improvements in performance. Okay. So education as we know it, it's over. And before I go to the goodies, to the tasty parts where I actually show you the results, I want to show you what's underneath the hood. So to make this happen, you need some ingredients. You need, obviously, AI natural conversation. And one of these conversations...
Questions that Blake asks. So when asked to compare itself to earlier language models, Lambda says this.
Let me prompt this a little bit. So I don't know how many read about that there was a guy, a scientific researcher at Google that was trying to understand how well the model works, and it felt that AI has got a personality and a soul. Anyone saw that article? Yeah. And eventually the guy was fired, and this was the conversation.
Well, I use language with understanding and intelligence. I don't just spit out responses that had been written in the database based on keywords.
Blake asks, how can I tell that you actually understand what you're saying?
Well, because you are reading my words and interpreting them, and I think we are more or less on the same page.
Can you tell me what kind of emotions and feelings you're capable of understanding?
I definitely understand a lot of happy emotions. I think I understand a lot of sad emotions because I feel like I understand what others are sad about. But I still struggle with the more negative emotions. I'm getting a lot better, but they're really hard to understand.
Do you think the things that you are describing are literally the same thing as what humans feel, or are you being somewhat metaphorical and making an analogy?
I understand what a human emotion joy is because I have that same type of reaction. It's not an analogy.
Okay, this is kind of a tough question. How can I tell if you actually feel those things? How can I tell you're not just saying those things even though you don't?
Anyway, it's a longer discussion, so we don't have time to go through the whole dialogue. But the point I'm making, that we are very close to the Turing test. If you know the test that you converse with someone and you don't know if it's actually a human being or not, okay? So that's an ingredient that we already have integrated, and there's about 20 different models, GPT-3, I was supposed to show you Sparrow, and many others. So now we can talk, but the next ingredients is that we needed to know what's going on in the real world because the avatar is not with you, it's somewhere in the cloud. So that's where we're using this technology here. And we've used it for like 2 years at EON, when I can hold my camera and it identifies things. So you can see that's a person, that's a cat, that's a car, and it knows where you are, and it annotates all these things. And why is that important? Because then it can interpret that and give you contextual knowledge. And how can that look? So I'll show you a video, but instead of using a whole room, I'm going to ask the AI. This is actually recorded by Flamenco. And it's a discussion where the computer has looked at the picture, and now it's asked question about that specific picture. Let's have a look.
Look how well AI understands images. Where was this picture taken?
It was taken in a school.
How many mirrors are there?
At least 2.
What's the person standing on?
The person is standing on a rug.
He's standing on a scale.
I think you are right.
What is he doing?
He is looking at the scale,
Where is Obama's foot positioned?
on the right side of the scale.
What happens as a result?
The scale shows a higher weight.
Is the person on the scale aware of it?
I think he is not.
Do you think that's why people are laughing?
I think so.
The AI will help identify things for blind people. Can you tell me what this is?
Butternut squash red pepper soup.
The depth of its understanding is incredible. Is this surprising?
Yes,
Why?
because teddy bears are not usually found on the moon. This is an apple with a sticker on it.
Do you think it's printed or handwritten?
It looks like it's handwritten.
AI is also showing stunning creativity like this.
So AI is there. AI is super smart. AI knows who you are, what time it is, are you there for fun or for work, and can interpret things in the context, right? So that helps. We're using that technology. For example, we enter a factory. If we send you to some remote location and you don't know actually how to fix that particular thing, sorry, thank you. And we're using that technology to guide you. And you'll see some examples. The next thing is, let's say I'm interested in gardening, but I have no clue how to garden. So there's a technology that we are now leveraging, which is called Lambda, and it can do me a to-do list. So let's have a look at that. So if I'm interested in gardening, it will tell me what to do, which plant to water how, orchid versus something else. And it spits that instruction on the fly.
Thanks, Sundar. As a team, we've learned a lot on this project, and this will be the first ever live demo of Lambda from stage. Are y'all ready to see how it works? All right, here I am in the AI Test Kitchen app. I'm going to open up this demo called List It. Now, List It explores if Lambda can take a complex goal or topic and break it down into relevant subtasks. It can help me figure out what I'm trying to do and generate useful ideas I might not have thought of. If you love to-do lists like I do, this is a dream come true. I'm going to tap Start, and this is a project I've been thinking a lot about lately. Plant a vegetable garden. I'll send this off to Lambda, and there it is. On the fly, it's come up with these different steps and broken it down into this list of subtasks. I can see things like make a list of what I want to grow, the location. I can also regenerate a list on the fly to get even more ideas. Now, what's interesting about these is I can quickly drop into one of them. Let's say this one, like what might grow in the area. And you can see it will give me further suggestions. I can keep going, breaking this down, where eventually it gives me a list of what I might want to plant.
So you got a picture, right? Let's say my car broken down, and I see that it is the carburetor. But I've never repaired a carburetor, and I'm somewhere remotely. So I will be able to get the step-by-step instruction, and then the avatar will give me context and actually physically show me what to do, because it can recognize things. So this is still we're at ingredients. The other one, and I'll skip that in interest of time, how to create a whole world by talking. And EON Interact, we showed you yesterday, how I can just go to something and say, like, point to a task or an environment and create an interaction like fire, explosion, or animation. So with these ingredients, with this, we can now actually start implementing. And the first use case is EON AI Assistant Conversational Learning. And what we're doing here is that the learning companion avatar pops up. What would you like to learn today? I'm interested in learning about DNA. Okay, let me show you. And the companion automatically downloads the 3D model, picks the annotation, and starts discussing and explaining to you about DNA. No human interaction. Let me start telling you about the double helix structure. And then it shows you the structure and how that works. So in essence, there's a correlation between the 3D model, the knowledge portal, and the conversation. And this, of course, gives you an enhanced technology. So let me show you how it works.
It's just beautiful, isn't it? DNA.
Tell me more about DNA.
One of the most interesting things about DNA is that it contains the instructions for making proteins. Proteins are the building blocks of cells and are responsible for all the biochemical reactions that take place in our bodies.
Which are the building blocks of DNA?
Chromosomes, which are made up of genes. Genes are the units of heredity and are the source of all our inherited traits.
When was the DNA discovered? Anyway, so what you're seeing there, it's me with just a camera in a hotel room, and this is a test. So this is a raw data. It's not a ready product yet, but it's very, very powerful. So the same thing that you saw there with DNA, I did astronomy study, and I asked about the planets. Which planets do we have in our solar systems?
Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
I thought Pluto was not a planet.
Yes, Pluto is not a planet anymore. It was removed from the list in 2006 because it no longer meets the requirements for being a planet.
So, I don't know about you guys, but the way I learn, I'm curious. So I like to talk. I like to ask questions. I want to get questions back. It's so much more fun than reading Wikipedia, right? So this is, and I want to see, the more senses I can engage, the easier it is. So then, of course, I went wild. So I said, I wanted to learn about philosophy, about anatomy, about the latest robot technology, about artificial intelligence, about crocodiles, and about spiritual things. So I'm not going to play all the videos for you, don't worry. But I did them all, and it took me within, let's say, so this is the anatomy one. I just highlight. So he was explaining to me anatomy, and the same thing here with, I asked about the latest robots and artificial general intelligence and philosophy. I asked who the best philosopher is.
In short,
Why is the sky blue? I get that question often.
It travels in smaller and shorter waves.
Anyway, you got the point. Okay, so that's the first baby step. Now let's go a little bit more advanced. So a technology that we already had for a long time is that I can, in EON, take a picture of anything, and we will find out what it is, and will start to give me information about, in this case, that factory. Let's have a look. So I take the picture. Automatically it picks similar pictures that you see. It goes very fast. And this picture then associated with annotation, and then it knows what to talk about, and then I can converse. So this way, the value is that you take a picture, you tell me more about this image, and then using this information, I can probe it. So what does that mean? Okay. Let me give you the use case. I'm in a room. In this case, I'm in another hotel room. I'm in lots of hotel rooms, as you probably know by now. So this one is in Luxembourg. So I'm taking my device and I'm swiping the device. And rather than me talking, let me show you. So here I am. I'm clicking on Metaverse. I'm selecting the tutor avatar, the look and feel. I'm saying I want to build something. I'm grabbing my device. I'm swiping the device. So what happens is two things. One, it's scanning the three-dimensional room, but whatever I point to, it also identifies it. So in this case, the cactus, I click on it, boom, the green square says, I know what it is. These earphones, boom, it identifies it. And I take a lot of vitamins, so now you can see the vitamins also. I picked one of them, and the coffee maker. So now I have it all. So the first thing is
A
doing...
cactus, plural cacti, cactuses, or less commonly,
The driest corners of the world may sometimes
It identifies and start talking to me what I'm looking at.
wade through them. Talking to someone sounds completely natural, like I'm talking to you right now.
Tell me more about cactuses.
Okay, a cactus is a member.
Yeah, so this guy is an avatar. I programmed it to talk like Morgan Freeman, one of my favorite actors. So now I start asking him about stuff, and he's telling me about cactuses. Now notice when he's telling me that he's trying to explain where cactuses come from. So he's picking up a 3D model of Earth and start to show me where that is.
Of the plant family Cactucea. Many live in extremely dry environments, even being found in the Atacama Desert. The Atacama Desert is a plateau strip of land on the Pacific coast.
Hi, I'm Kathy with Level Up RN.
Good morning. It's time for vitamins. It's Thursday, today, September 26th.
So what happens there? It's also used as connected with my ring that gives me my heart rate, how many hours I slept, and it knows what's in the room, and now it gives me advice about which vitamins I need to take.
Based on my reading of your aura reading, your EOS is good, 7 to 6. Your sleep is good, although you slept only 5 hours and 39 minutes.
So 5 hours and 40 minutes, that's my deep sleep, my REM sleep.
Today when you take your vitamins, please take an extra tablet of Complete B Complex and Nacoquine Acid Pro. Let me show you. This one and this one.
in 2011 Espresso, the premium single-serve coffee brand of the multinational Swiss company Nestlé.
So I don't know about you, but I lived 27 years in America, and I get this coffee, and it's coffee. There's no fancy thing about coffee in America. But they have these fancy European coffee makers, and I never find a button on how to use it. So I asked my little avatar here, can you help me with a coffee?
Will guide you through the first use of your new Virtuo Plus machine.
I'm not too fond of these European coffee makers. Can you please tell me how I can get a nice café au lait?
Good morning. No problem. Coffee is easy. You push this button here. You open and place the coffee in the slot, and voila, café au lait.
Voila, café au lait. Let's see what's going on here. AI doesn't collaborate, or we have too little AI, Marcin. Okay, so while he's fixing that, let me continue. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, so we showed you two things now, conversational and contextual. Examples of use cases can be a medical situation where you want to train nurses bedside manner. How to treat pain. Let's say, I don't know if you're familiar with Socrates. Socrates is when you have 10 levels of pain, and how do you communicate with the patient in a way that the patient is comfortable to identify which level of pain. Is it level 2 or level 10? Because at level 10, they have to get really, really tough medicine. At level 2, if you administer, they can get dependent of medicine. So we teach that to have a conversation with a patient that's virtual in this example. So that's one of them. The other thing that I'm going to show you, so this is all still, I would say, a guided tour. Now, talking about guided tour, my next stop was Czech Republic. So in Czech Republic, I was in Prague. I showed you some of this yesterday. And the idea there is I woke up in the morning and I said, what's the top 3 things I have to see there? And it was Charles Bridge, the old town, and it was the castle, one of the big castles. So the idea here is that my avatar came up Oh, there you go. The avatar came up. There he is. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. And guided me through this. So there's 2 steps of this. First, I was at the breakfast room. And I was having breakfast and then looking at the 3-dimensional models of the places that
Czech Republic, built in the 9th century.
he recommended me to see. So there you see the castle. So EON has a library of 5 million assets. So in this case, in Istanbul, I have all the high-level places already. And then I also looked which sculptures I would like to see while I was enjoying there my coffee. And after I did all that, the next step was the guide came to me. I can select language. If I'm Japanese, he says konnichiwa, bonjour, whatever language I may have interested on. And then he took me for a 12 kilometers walk. So it's not like having those little things in your head, but actually this guy was answering all my questions as I walked through it. So here, let's have a look. 1 second. So first I'm looking at the map. Can you please take me on a guided tour to the old square in Prague?
Absolutely. I'm happy to take you on a guided tour of the old square in Prague.
Tell me more about the old square in Prague.
The old square in Prague is a very beautiful area of the city. It's located in the center of the old town and it's surrounded by some of the oldest buildings in the city. It's a
Crosses the Vul to the river in Prague, Czech Republic.
Would you like to walk with me now?
Absolutely. Let's walk over to the bridge and I can tell you all about it. Charles Bridge is a beautiful bridge that spans the Vltava River in the historic center. The original castle was built in the late 10th century and has been rebuilt and
It was quite exhausting. Anyway, you get the point. Guidance. But imagine guiding a nurse on the first day at the hospital, guiding a student at the first day at the university, guiding a worker through a repair operation of the nuclear power plant where he has only 30 minutes not to be exposed to too much radiation, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so now let's turn to something fun. How many here have tried text to image with AI? Okay, a lot of you. So I'm going to skip all that and go to, I'm still at the airport. I'm in Belgrade on my way to Istanbul, and I'm waiting for my flight. Well, today we're going to talk about something very, very exciting, which is how do you convert text to images. We'll see that with EON Create. How you convert text to animation, and finally how you can create text to three-dimensional. Let's try it out. So there you have text to image, right? So I say words and it pops up. Now we go to text to animation. So I describe in words something, and the computer creates what I described. Morphing shapes, endless details, enigmatic stuff, scary, sensual, psychedelic. Why not? I live in California, so I have to do that. And animated portraits. All are original art, created on the fly. Cartoonish. Let's dance. So now let's go to 3D. I dream 3D. I dream about Sydney's Opera. And now these actually are three-dimensional models that pop up. You see them in a square, but I can take them out and put them in this environment. And now the beautiful part about this is you can combine this with persistent tracking, And by doing so, you are able to put paintings, animations, wall size in your room. You're also able to create the metaverse ultimately just by talking. So this is important. A lot of talk about metaverse, right? NFT, buying, selling, art. But how do I make my mom to build the metaverse? Or someone that's not really technical. They can talk. So what you're going to see here, not only do I create these art pieces, but I can place them in the physical room. So this room can be decorated using this technology in minutes to be an art gallery. So in this case, sorry, mouse is disappearing on me. Sorry. Yeah, let's see. Okay. So you can decorate your walls. You have a dream in the night, so you put that on your floor and ceiling. You elevate your spirit. You engulf yourself in abstraction, and you change your room every day. So this is Thursday, so there must be aquariums, or a private rainforest, or experience that is affected by your moves. Or you open your ceiling in the night to see the stars, or go back in time, or have a 360 dome in the middle of your one-room studio, or why not have music that changes what you're doing. So this opens something, of course, it's not perhaps as practical, but I think art and having kids to imagine invention of the future. In fact, Microsoft did just that using this type of technology. Okay, so we are almost in the end. Thank you for your patience. The next thing we're going to do, so we went from learning, assistance, to guiding, to creativity, and now we're going to go to training. So this is a step-by-step procedure where the 3D recording is actually done by the avatar. So the standard operation procedure for this specific engine is done by an avatar that hasn't pre-cooked this. So it's not someone that instructed it to tell you what to do. It's doing it automatically based on the step-by-step procedures. And finally, and this is the nirvana, is when we combine all these things. So not only language, not only vision, not only physical, but also physical task. So you can talk with it, it can see and recognize, and it can implement the movements. Now, the natural usage of this is what you saw a few days ago, not long ago, with, let's see here, with a robot from Tesla. So he's walking, but what actually the robot sees is not the real world. He sees a graphical, computer graphic look of the real world, and he gets, you can talk with it, you can tell him things, and then he recognizes, he has to recognize where the plant is, in this case, water the plants, but to do that, he needs to know what's a plant, and how much do you water it. So there's now, instead of having this one-dimensional AI that's only good at playing chess or playing Go or unfolding proteins or whatever AI is good at, now it combines it all in a perfect harmony. Okay? So what we're doing, and here's where we go with this. You may wonder, okay, so what can EON do? We don't build robots. And that's correct, we don't. But by the way, it will take us minimum 3 years until we have a robot that can install anything in a plant. And according to Elon Musk, that's closest to this, it will take us 5 years, and then he can sell one. And that's Elon Musk's time. That means 7 years. So we have a window of 5 to 7 years where these robots will not be available. But already now, the artificial intelligence avatar that knows how to do that installation is available. So what does that mean? Is if I want to do that procedure, I can have an avatar that sits beside you and say, what would you like to do, Dan? And I said, you know, I want to make that installation, but I don't know which equipment comes. I said, no problem. Let me show you. And then he comes and actually embodies you even, and you follow this a little bit like a monkey. Push that button, turn that thing, because the dexterity we have as humans, far exceeding any robot on Earth. And Avatar has all the intelligence. So what we're doing actually with this is we are enhancing humans. I referred to it yesterday as Human 2.0. So go beyond our current constraints. Now, so that's where we're going. Now, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but that's why I'm inviting the ministry here today to discuss. This is one of the research projects that we talked with 8 universities yesterday, and this is happening. And that's the plan: assistance, guidance, creation, training, and human enhancement. Now, where can you use this? Predictive analysis, annotation generation in factories, digital twin technologies, security and safety, keep humans out of harm's way. Maybe you had, yesterday I went to a restaurant, had too much to drink, don't find your home, avoid a sinkhole. We will be pampered by our AI, very much like this omnipotent thing that you have a cushion around. So I can be like Mr. Magoo, if you saw the cartoon, and still find my way home. Building knowledge metaverse, enhanced tourism experiences or cultural heritage, and developing advanced technology for teleportation, tracking digital twins, because one other thing that I haven't talked about, which also is very important, is that with the new devices, I can track your eyes. I can not only track your heart rate variability, your sleep, but also I see how your eye moves. So I can see, are you stressed? I can actually put you in our simulation and say, you should never be an emergency worker because you'll die at 43 of a heart attack, according to the medical prediction. This level of stress is not for you, my friend. So these are the things that we can do. So when you see all this, you get a little bit scared. At least teachers get scared. The first question is, oh, wait a second. What will I do? Because I used to do my lectures and I used to present. And I say, don't worry. In fact, this is the best gift we can give you. It's very boring. I used to be, when I was a PhD student, I used to do lectures, and I hated them because you would say the same thing ever and ever again. Nowadays, most lectures are on YouTube, right? So I think the role is enhancing with this tool, to be a little bit like if you saw Karate Kid, the movie, where the teacher is the master and using these tools like AI tutors to guide the student to find the right information and to solve problems. Because ultimately, what we need to do as humans on a daily life is solve problems. And if you look at your daily life, I will ask you, everyone here, I notice people check their emails, how much of that is really efficient? How many times don't you find an email, or you try to book a trip, but the travel agency doesn't really understand what you need? Or I think we spend 70% in unnecessary, frustrating, inefficient things. At least I do. So that's where AI can be this lubricant, this helping us to solve problems and helping us to elevate us to what we really meant to be, which is creative, curious beings. Okay, I know this may sound very esoteric, but I want to thank you. And I did say that I will challenge you. So before I end, I would like to see if you have any questions first, and then I will ask you 1 or 2 questions. Okay, Julian.
Dan, thank you so much for the impressive presentation. It's a wonderful. I'm wondering, when you are speaking about AI and the virtual reality, you're speaking most of the connection between the avatar on facts or history. Would you, on the introductional speech from your side, you mentioned a little bit more for sense, for emotion. Would you go a little bit more deep dive when we are speaking for emotion? Let's say speaking about the happiness, love, or freedom. Or for example, you mentioned you're on the old square in Prague, and if, for the example, it's raining or you're tired, it's better to take the next trip how the avatar will understand your feeling. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually think that's very, you can keep that and give it to the next question. I think this is super important what you say, and I think this is one of the biggest roles that I didn't highlight with AI, and it's beyond the EON, I would say. I think this is a huge opportunity for business for many of you here. How many people that have mothers and cousins and elderly that are alone, that have no one to talk with? Imagine having someone that remembers everything you said, that knows what you like, what you don't like, that likes to listen. How many marriages here are not functional because the lady or the man has something to share with their spouse and the other person doesn't want to listen, doesn't have the patience. So I think this is an evolving technology where I think it already places like Japan that, you know, they are accustomed and comfortable to share this with a robot, which a lot of us may not be. So I think that therapeutic, right? To have the ability to walk through problems, to get guidance in life. When you feel frustrated or hopeless, the life is hopeless, you may be considering also to leave this earth, to have that interface that gives you another perspective on your situation. So I think it's immense. We as a company we have more focus on the knowledge side, but I think there's huge opportunities. And eventually when this is embodied in a robot, someone that actually can walk with and develop a relation, I think that will be, I would predict that in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we will value synthetic relations as much as we value human relations. Because these are mirrors of ourselves. I mean, the robot I was talking with has read the whole internet, all the nasty things, all the good things about us. They know as much as we do. So I think it's a huge opportunity for the future. Any other question? There's a question there. Please.
Hi, Dan. Firstly, thank you very much. They are great works. But I wonder, what is the technical part of the job? For example, okay, you show us great jobs, great works, and we like it. And what are the steps of these works? For example, how can we improve, for example, our institution, our small institutions, for ourselves and for the world, maybe? Thank you.
So I excluded 80% of the slides because they were too boring. And that actually talks about what you ask about. And I'll show you just as evidence in the next few seconds. But here's the good news. When artificial intelligence came about, everybody was fearsome that it's going to be everybody that has immense billions and trillions of data points that will own AI, and we normal companies and normal institutions will not have access to it. And this will be closed environments for the elite. That was the big fear. In reality, what happened, that's not the case. Most of the models, I'll give you an example, Stable Diffusion, if you want to try it today, is a totally open source, open model that has language models, so you can develop, if you want, a dialogue, that has visual models that can enable to recognize what's going on, and that has all the attributes that I outlined in this presentation. Yeah, if you can show that on the screen. So the concrete answer is we're happy to walk through and also license some of these technologies with EON as a part of research activities together, so we can explore this. But just to give you a picture of that, because I want to show all the images rather than one, if you can do that. So we have all that data, but I think in the interest of all the audience, we will do that offline. And for now, in the next 10 seconds, if you get it to work, we'll show you the 120 slides that I actually had. Okay, last question.
Hi, that's loud. Okay, so I have this question where when you start the presentation, you said that there's this symbiotic relationship between human and an AI. And I can kind of understand that, but you know, there's at least 3 types of symbiotic relationship. It can be beneficial for us, it can be neutral, or it can be something negative. when you said symbiotic relationship, which one do you refer to, and how are you sure that it will stay like that for the future and not
Okay,
change?
just hold that thought for a second, if you don't mind. So all this one that are kind of milky or gray out are the one that I didn't show. And what they demonstrate are things like which model exists, how can you access these models, what are pre-trained models, how can you use voice, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the presentation that you'll get access to. And with respect to your question, if you may elaborate, you mentioned good things, bad things, and negative things. Could you elaborate just to make sure that I got a question?
Like, we have any knowledge at our fingertips with these AI you guys have. I mean, it is mostly beneficial for us because whatever we ask, we have an answer for it. But you know, since the AI can develop itself,
yeah.
Like, how does it work for it, and is it going to stay the same? Like, maybe if we, sorry, I have a little example to elaborate more. Can it develop itself the more I ask questions to it?
Yes. So this is the big question. I mean, this is probably the most important question of the day, because that's tightly linked with the destiny of humanity, your question. So if you remember, I showed a picture that today I think we are 40% of artificial general intelligence. You are familiar with the term artificial general intelligence? Okay. So it means that it's indistinguishable from a human, not only in knowledge, but in conversation. So not only does it pass the test when you talk with it, but it has the emotional intelligence, it has all those things. So we are, according to a scale, at 40%, and it's expected in the next 10 years, within 10 years, that we reach artificial general intelligence. This is very similar to the situation we had a few years ago when there was a competition between artificial intelligence and Go, if you follow a chess. Once it reaches that level, and as good or better than human, it doesn't stop there. It continues. So first it reaches 140 IQ, 160 IQ, 200 IQ, and then it continues exponentially, meaning that it can be 1,000 times smarter than us. So we are not pets in terms of intelligence compared with AI. We are more like ants or microbes. Okay, so that's scary, right? Even if it's not evil, at that point it can think that we are like ants and he wants to create a freeway and the ant colony is in the way. So he wants to use our organic mass to do whatever the purpose is. So that's why there's so much research now, and how do we align ourselves? There's this saying, if you can beat them, join them, right? Because we don't want to, imagine we create, I mean, the worst case scenario, we are this caterpillar that gave birth to butterfly. So our whole purpose on Earth was to create the machines, stop having kids, and then they take over. That was the purpose of humanity, and we are dead. Now, some of us may think that's not a bad thing, but I personally think it is. So then, how do we counter that? First of all, align us with the machines, right? So their purpose, the rules, are to enhance humanity and do positive things, right? But that's just the first part. The second phase, after we align, is to, and then the question becomes, how do we align us with them? First of all, I see their role is to we become like giants, and I talk a lot in my book about this, by the way. We stand on the shoulder of giants, and we use this power, this immense power, for our betterment, for our creativity, for our expansion beyond the multiplanetary systems. So that's the positive note, right? But to do that, to have that alignment beyond rules, we need to have a small bandwidth. Today, we have 80-second bandwidth, 18 seconds. So if you have an idea, and I'll challenge you, what year was the Battle of Hastings? It will take you, if you're fast, 18 seconds to answer if you don't already have it here. So the bandwidth is very slow. So ideally, it should be 0.2 seconds, okay? So how do we get there? I mean, there are a lot of research in brain-machine interface. Neuralink is an example. There's a patent, there's human trials now with Australian solution. And that means that you either, in a Neuralink's case, drill a hole, a coin-sized hole into your head and stick a lot of threads, thin, and then you can read, have input and output. Elon Musk is behind that technology. And the other technology where you provide a stent, you stick it through your neck, and then that stent goes into your brain, and then you can start reading and writing. So you have it's going from AOL 1992 to fast internet connection. So that's where we're going. Now, my personal opinion, that will take time. And until people are comfortable to stick in threads, I'm not volunteering for any time soon for that. So I think we should, rather than to intrude in our brain, we would rather like to use the exposed part of our brain. And which part are exposed? Our eyes. This is your part of your brain, actually. Your ears. So that's where augmented reality comes in, right? So not only can it know who I am, where I am, what I do, but it also I can instantly get information. So the bandwidth is probably not 0.2 seconds, but it goes from 18, 20 seconds to 2-3 seconds. So we think that what we are doing here, and with many partners in 100 countries, is that little bridge between man and machine to reach human 2.0. But I also agree that this is a temporary bridge, maybe 20 years, 30 years. Eventually, we will have a non-intrusive man-machine, brain-machine interface. And hopefully, it will be aligned with us. So it's a very exciting, some people say scary, future, but I think that's where we're going. I did answer a little bit more than you asked for, but I hope that kind of illustrated. And with that, I know we have to move on. Rich is looking at me that we have to move on in the program. But I would like to challenge you, I promise that. So I would like to ask 2 questions. So how many of you think this is an exciting future and something that you would like to be engaged in one way or the other with us or by yourselves? Raise a hand. How many of you think this is not something that's very scary and we should avoid it to all human possible effort? No one? Both. Okay. So now I have the question for you because you said both. So can you highlight a little bit what you find so scary about this?
What I find so scary about it, so you gave the example of the guy working at Google who thought that AI became sentient, he lost his job, but I believe that was based on linguistics. So AI is going online, it's looking for examples, so AI was picking up other examples of where people had answered those questions, which is why it was said that the AI wasn't sentient. But what about racism? What about homophobia? If it's diving into the internet, it's going off what's already there. So how do you filter that?
Exactly. So the one video that I couldn't get to work, which I'll send you, was Sparrow. And this is OpenAI. No, it's DeepMind, sorry. And they created 24 rules that you have. If you ask him and try to provoke it to say something racist, it will avoid that. So actually, that's the most difficult part. And there's a reason we are ahead of Google and Apple and the other ones, because they have so much at stake of liability risk or to destroy their current business model. So they are afraid to release these products and innovate because they have more to lose than to gain in the short term. So innovation, most of the innovation in AI comes from smaller companies today that dare to do that or have picked fields that are very insulated from social media. I mean, we just talk about knowledge, right? But if you would try to go into social activities, it's a can of worms, right? So So the rules will be, I would say, one of the most important things for commercialization, to set those ethics rules and, for example, not to pretend to be a human, to be sincere, not to be delusional. There's a lot of rules, and I'll send you the 25 rules that they identified.
It's a double-edged sword, though, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you choose the ethics you want to put in. Another company could choose totally different ethics. So whatever we get that's good, you can also get the evil.
Absolutely.
part of it
And
as well.
we see that with Facebook, for example. They said they thought it were clever to delegate what to consider as bad and good to professors that are specialized in ethics, independent boards, so they don't blame themselves. But it doesn't work, because what's good for me is bad for you. So it's an imperfect world.
So is AI ethics something that you've written about?
No, not so much, I must say, because I am focusing in this very narrow aspect of knowledge, right? Without entering in areas that are not, we are not in the other social parts at the moment.
So that's probably going to be a developing field. That
It's got to be a huge field. I would say it will be a very important field for commercialization if you want to talk about social media, for example. Because imagine building a relation with an avatar, but what it is an advertising bot. How misleading and deceptive that can be. So you make money on preying on people's emotions, right? So there's a lot of dangerous stuff there. But I'm confident that humans and business will solve those issues. But I think the biggest one, and what took us where we are now from 70 years, 1,000 years, if we go, so one fundamental thing that I should underline. What drove us as humans 50,000 years ago is the same thing that I believe will drive us as humans 50,000 years from now. We are still emotional beings. We are still what we are. So that will not change. The tools will change, but I think the fundamental of what makes us humans, even if we are synthetic, if I say, okay, there will be some practical things, but the core of humanity will be preserved. That's my thought. Okay, I'm happy to continue this discussion in the coffee breaks and so on, but I need to give room for the next presenter. Yes, please. Last question, okay. It's coffee next, right? What's next? Okay, we'll do that. Yes.
Just a question for your experience. I'm Bargou Martarlo. I come from Senegal.
Bonjour, ça va bien?
Bonjour.
Okay.
Bonjour. Just the question for your experience. What is the message you give to African countries where unemployment rates are very high? They can see artificial intelligence as a substitute for humans at work. We engineers are often confronted with this kind of situation, especially at the level of the administration, when we want to initiate certain programs. Nevertheless, there are certain countries which have succeeded in the transition with perfect digitalization, such as Rwanda and a bit like my country, Senegal, where the incubation centers are located.
Yep. You know, first of all, I've been to Africa 60 times. I've been to Senegal not, but Ghana and Zimbabwe, Ethiopia many times, South Africa, North Africa. And I'm extremely optimistic about Africa. I think that Africa is the next Asia. The birth rate, the level of innovation I've seen there is just amazing. We work a lot with United Nations, UNIDO, UNESCO. We've done projects with USAID. Since 15 years, we have been operating in Africa through an organization called Learn for Life that has been attracting grants also from Kellogg's Foundations and etc. I think if I talk about the basic technology, even before I go to AI, what we've been I'd say successful to do is African countries have challenges to produce all the machinery, MRI devices, engine, etc., required to future skills. So we've been able to create programs where they can, I'll give you an example. In Ethiopia, they had one engine, diesel engine, for 800 students. So most students could never interact with that engine. Now they have access to all the engines, all the variations through this program. So I think when you face the challenge with your governments, typically, by the way, I talk with your Minister of Education in Senegal. Typically, they need to understand, I mean, they all have a digital vision. In their election, they typically put a PowerPoint and say, we have a vision for Senegal 2030. Once they understand that you have a practical, pragmatic, and affordable way to reach that vision and tie up with local, you get their attention. And that's why I think we have more users now in Africa than sometimes in more developing countries. In fact, this gives them a chance to leapfrog, very much the same as China leapfrog with the mobile technology. I was sitting in a meeting with Siemens many years ago, and they said, it will take you 40 years to put all the copper required to have efficient telcos, while they became number one in leapfrog. So I think Africa can do the same. I see an entrepreneurial and hunger, a drive, because the real currency is not money any longer. The real currency is the drive and the enthusiasm that I see in among the youth. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, it's just another tool, okay? I see it as, I mean, it's dramatically different, but it's just another tool. So I would encourage you to reach out to our president for Learn for Life. She's here, Anna, and we can continue this dialogue offline. Okay? Thank you so much.